So we've been looking at the storm as it's moving north, and you've been seeing all the lightning wrapping around the eye. I want you to look at the size of the eye. Look how over the last hour it's getting smaller. Watch how it's becoming right there. See how much smaller it is right there? It's like the whole figure skating analogy that you use. As a storm gets stronger and spins faster, it tightens up, and in tightening up, the speed increases. So we are getting all the signs that this storm is not weakening whatsoever. In fact, it could be getting a little bit stronger. Now, is that going to mean a big difference at landfall? Probably not. I find it hard to believe. It's not going to have much time. It's moving so quickly, nearly 23, 24 miles an hour. So it will be making landfall. But you can really see it, though. I mean, we measured this eye at 40 miles wide a little while ago. Look right now. Look how much smaller the eye is as it continues to tighten up and get stronger. Heaviest weather right now from western Citrus County and Hernando County, all right? Winds in this area, probably about 40 to 45 miles an hour, maybe 50 in a couple of spots. The winds are stronger closer to the center. Let's go south from central Pasco County, from Land O'Lakes, west of Zephyr Hills, Wesley Chapel, Dade City, San Antonio, in that area. And then back toward New Tampa, in through Temple Terrace, Dover, Seffner, Brandon, Plant City, down south toward Riverview. Very, very heavy rain in there, and it extends over to Tampa as well. And then extending more south, eastern Manatee County, and that extends all the way down to where the tornado warning is that Jason was talking about. So again, as this whole area moves north, it is certainly possible that we can start to see some of those tornado warnings in our area. But as I said, I mean, look, tornadoes that are spawned by tropical systems are almost always small and many times don't even make it down to the ground, but they're usually EF zeros. When you're talking about winds gusting up to 60 to 65, even 70 miles an hour in some of these storms, you can argue the winds are every bit as strong within just the line of storms than any little vortices that might develop along it. So let's go back and look at how far we're talking here. Look at Pinellas County in comparison to where the eye is. 91.1 miles to the center of the eye. Now look at the direction that it's moving. It's moving this way. So it will be moving farther away from this point on. So this is as close as this storm will ever get to Pinellas County and to areas south and to Hillsborough County and to Manatee County. What's my point? Couple of things. Hurricane force winds extend 60 miles out from the center. It will now be farther as it continues to move in this direction. Now closer to Citrus County, closer to Hernando County, but farther from Pinellas, Hillsborough, and areas south. So hurricane force winds extend 60 miles. It's 90 miles away, and it's as close as it's going to get. Obviously, we are not going to see sustained hurricane force winds at this point. Citrus County on the fringe. You are on the fringe, and look at these wind gusts. 64 in St. Pete in the last hour. 60 in Bradenton and Sarasota, 61 in Venice, 58 in Newport Richey, 58 in Spring Hill. Citrus County, it's on the way for you, again, because it's moving so quickly. There are the bands that came through that spawned all of the power outages. The winds will begin to, I don't want to say subside, but the winds will begin to lessen a little bit once that center passes where you are, because typically the southern flank of this will not be quite as heavy as the northeastern one. Winds of 125. Northeast, the pressure has dropped 1 millibar in the last few minutes. All that means is it's getting a little bit stronger. Not explosively, but a little bit stronger. I think we're looking at a storm of 125 to 130 when it makes landfall. And Jason and I were just talking about this. So you look at the eye right now. Let's say the eye is 25 miles wide when it makes landfall. Tallahassee is going to be right on the western side of that eye, right around that eye wall. Literally a 10-mile swing in one direction or another is going to be huge. But at the end of the day, the impacts are still going to be powerful. Now, remember, the extreme winds, and when I say extreme, I mean the 125. I mean the winds of 120, 125, 130 are only in an extremely small area, 5, 6, maybe 10 miles, but usually not even that wide. So if we can just keep that part of that storm 10, 15 miles east of Tallahassee, they're going to get wind, obviously, 100-mile-an-hour winds. but you're not going to get the real damaging stuff. There's a big difference in damage from a Category 2 to a Category 4 hurricane, and that's the wind difference that we're talking about. It's going to be that close at landfall because obviously there's your track, but this is still the margin of error on any given day based on the time frame. So if it's here, and we just went old school. I took a pad of paper and I looked at the dots of where they've been, and I took that pad of paper on the monitor and drew a line. And, well, I didn't draw on the monitor because I'd get in trouble. But, you know, I went in a line in my head, and I looked at it, and I'm like, all right, this is so, it is so close to the eye wall. That's not going to be an impact for us, obviously, but it is going to be an impact for Tallahassee, and they are just right there on the fringe. This storm for the Bay Area is going to be memorable because of the water. The wind, I mean, it's windy. We've got some power outages. That's it. I mean, I know it's scary, but overall, the threat, 99% of the threat from this storm is right here. It's the water. We've been showing you pictures. We've got reporters out in the field. We had to move some of the reporters because the water was coming up so quickly in Pinellas County. So from now until 9 o'clock, from Pinellas south, the water is probably going to slowly rise, but I think from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. is when it's really, really going to get going. Now, in the booth, I believe we do have some reporters out there with some updates. Is that correct? We can go back to Nadine and Wendy to cover that.
One thing real fast, guys. Manatee, Port Manatee reporting a 1.5 foot water rise in less than an hour.
Ooh,
so that's at Port Manatee. So the water is now moving into Tampa Bay.
Because you've got an onshore flow, because the eye has passed that area and now the winds come around. I mean, that's the key. Once you're east-west, once you're north of that east-west line of where you live, the winds start to veer out of a more southerly direction or southwesterly direction, and that pushes it in, as opposed to earlier in the day, the winds are pushed offshore until they get to that point. So unfortunately, what we've been showing you, as awful as it's been, it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better through the evening.